Yeah. Good morning, good evening, Radhe Radhe. Welcome to Daily Wisdom from Bhagavad Gita session. And as everyone else would be, I am also quite excited to learn about Karm Yog. So I hand over to Nitinji. Radhe Radhe, Nitinji.
Thank you, Sandhya, for handing it over to me. Thank you, Vijayji, for a wonderful session, like always. Asmasu karuna swabhave vartate. That's my learning today. All right. Dhanyavada. Namo
Namo.
Punah milama.
Punah milama.
Good morning, good evening, everybody. Radhe Radhe. Welcome to today's edition of Daily Wisdom from Bhagavad Gita. Like always, I'm always excited to be back on Monday. Previously, it used to be, thank God, it's Friday. Now it's wonderful, it's Monday. So that's the transition I'm experiencing after starting with these Bhagavad Gita sessions. And I hope the feeling is mutual for you as well. You can replace Monday with Tuesday if you are in India. But welcome again. Let me share my screen. We will get started with our Karm Yog series for this week. It's going to be a pretty in-depth conversation. So I would request all of you to tighten your seatbelts. We'll go into a lot of philosophy, back and forth, key concepts, but we'll really go deep into these concepts, however long it takes. Okay, I don't think anyone of us is in any kind of a hurry, right? But then the hope is that we will be able to really assimilate and get a good understanding of this concept, by the time we finish off this particular shloka. It's definitely going to take more than one sitting, and we will see how far we can go in each, because there are just too many concepts to get to the skin of this particular shloka. So let me share my screen and we will get started with our opening prayers. Just give me a second. Okay, I'm sharing my screen. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. All right. So welcome again. Let's do our opening prayers to get started with this activity. Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwaraha, Guru Sakshat Parabrahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsa Chanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum. Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum. Radhe Radhe. Good morning, good evening, again, once again, everyone. So like I said, we're going to have a Karm Yog series this whole week, and possibly a little more as well. We will do it a little differently. We'll definitely get into the shloka. However, all right, I'll get to that part a little later. So what we will do is we will do the tilling of the soil. Like when we have to plant something, we have to till the soil, and then we sow the seed, and then we maintain it or nourish it over time. So that's how we are going to take the shloka as well. So with the tilling of the soil is what we will get started with today. So this is the shloka. I'm sure all of you, this is one of the shlokas that most of the Indian households are conversant with. And everybody, even kids, they know the shloka for most part. It's a very deep shloka though, and we'll try to see if we can import the true meaning out of it as well. So I'll recite it and then you're welcome to follow along. Karmanyavadhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana ma karma phala heturbhu ma te sangostva karmani. All right, do we have any volunteers?
Yeah, Meenakshi ji, Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe. Radhe Radhe. कर्मण्येवाधिकारस्ते मा फलेषु कदाचन मा कर्मफलहेतुर्भूत् मा ते सङ्गोऽस्त्वकर्मणि.
Wonderful,
Radhe
ma'am.
Radhe.
Very nice.
Shri Vatsanji, Radhe Radhe.
Vatshanji, Shivatsan has got his own camera today. Very nice. You want to recite supercalifragilistic first or this one first? You have a choice.
I'll recite the supercalifragilisticexpialidocious.
Wonderful. You got it. Very nice. All right, go ahead. Go ahead. You can recite the shloka as well.
कर्मण्येवाधिकारस्ते मा फलेषु कदाचन मा कर्मफलहेतुर्भूत् मा ते सङ्गोऽस्त्वकर्मणि.
Wonderful, Shivatsan. Like always, beautiful recitation. Okay, let's take a few more hands.
Samji, Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe ji.
Radhe Radhe, Samji.
Karmanyevadikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana ma karmඵল हेतुर्भू ma te sango satkarmani. Radhe Radhe.
Very nice, Samji. Radhe Radhe. So if you're wondering what happened, we were on 4:11, right? Nothing happened. It's a very important concept. So it's important to go back and forth to revise some of the key concepts, which are going to be really, really beneficial for us in our journey. And every time personally, whenever I come to the shloka, there is something new I learn, something new. That is the beauty of divine knowledge. It is sentient knowledge. It is not static that once you've heard it, you've understood it and done deal. It is living knowledge. And reading Bhagavad Gita is like conversing with Krishna. The more intensely you ponder upon it, the more he graces you to get better import out of it, more, deeper and deeper and deeper, and there is absolutely no limit to it. Just one shloka itself can really transform our lives. It's a very, very important shloka. Okay, let's take a few more participants and then we'll get into, we have some deep, deep discussion that we're going to do today.
Okay, Lakshmi ji, Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe, Lakshmi ji. Your voice is breaking, Lakshmi.
Yeah, is it okay? I stopped my camera.
We have to get the mic closer.
Is it okay?
Yeah, now it's better.
Yeah, thank you. Karmanyevadikaraste mahaphaleshu kadachana ma karmafalo heturdur ma te sangostava karmani.
Wonderful, very nice, Lakshmi ji. Radhe Radhe.
Manish ji, Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe, Manish ji.
Radhe Radhe.
Radhe.
कर्मण्येवाधिकारस्ते मा फलेषु कदाचन मा कर्मफलहेतुर्भू मा ते सङ्गोऽस्त्वकर्मणि. Radhe Radhe.
Very nice, Manish ji. Radhe Radhe.
Should I also, maybe I'll take some new people first.
Sure, yeah, let's take, if we see some new names, let's give them a priority because we really want to have new people come forward and take initiative on reciting. So if you see, please do.
Yeah, Venkat ji, Radhe Radhe.
Venkat ji, it was good meeting you. If you can, and seeing you, you turn on your camera. So it was good meeting you the other day. Okay, not Venkat ji, okay, just confusing it. No worries, we'll get to meet as well, Venkat ji, by the way. Please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe, Nitini. Karmanyevadikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana ma karma phalaheturbhu ma te sangostva karmani.
Radhe Radhe, very nice, Venkat ji. You know Sailesh Bhai, right?
Sailesh ji, I think I know him, yeah.
My memory is not cooperating today. No, never mind. All right, let's pick
I'm
up.
actually from NC, sir. So Jayesh ji.
Jayesh ji.
Nitin ji, we met Pramod ji in the walk.
Pramod ji. Yeah, very true. Pramod ji. Sorry about that, Pramod ji. See, it's when you start aging, right? Your memory stops cooperating. So that's what's happening. All right. So
Himanshu Somani ji asked to unmute.
Sure, let's take a few more hands and then we'll get into have some good content to cover.
Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe.
Maybe 3 more hands and then we'll get started.
कर्मण्येवाधिकारस्ते मा फलेषु कदाचन मा कर्मफलहेतुर्भू मा ते सङ्गोऽस्त्वकर्मणि.
Very
Radhe
nice.
Radhe.
Anshiji, where are you joining us from?
Right now in Sunnyvale, Bay Area, California.
Okay, okay. Welcome to the session. Good to hear you. I think you did it for the first time today, right?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe. Okay, let's take 2 more and then we'll get started.
Mrinal ji, Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe, Mrinal ji. Good to see you.
राधे 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 नितिन जी कर्मण्येवाधिकारस्ते मा फलेषु कदाचन मा कर्मफलहेतुर्भू मा ते सङ्गोऽस्त्वकर्मणि.
Wonderful, Mrinal ji. Very nice. Radhe Radhe. I see Rajini ji. It's some new name today.
Yeah, Radhe Radhe Rajni ji.
Radhe Radhe.
Radhe.
कर्मण्येवाधिकारस्ते मा फलेषु कदाचन मा कर्मफलहेतुर्भर्मा ते सङ्गोऽस्त्वकर्मणि.
Wonderful. Very nice. Rajini ji, where are you joining us from?
Virginia.
Virginia. Okay. Welcome to the session. Okay. Maybe one more we can take and get started. Or 3 hands. Let's quickly cover. I'll cover the theory quickly.
Meena ji, Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe, Meena ji.
Radhe Radhe. I'm also from Virginia. I attend some sessions. Yeah.
Glad to have you.
कर्मण्येवाधिकारस्ते मा फलेषु कदाचन मा कर्मफलहेतुर्भूत् मा ते सङ्गोऽस्त्वकर्मणि.
Wonderful, Meena ji. Very nice. Let's quickly take Kamlesh ji and Riya ji and then we'll get started.
Yeah, Radhe Radhe Kamlesh ji.
राधे राधे.
Radhe.
कर्मणेवाधिकारस्ते मा फलेषु कदाचन मा कर्मफलहेतुर्भू मा ते सङ्गोऽस्त्वकर्मणि. राधे राधे.
Kamlesh ji, Radhe Radhe. Thank you. Let's take Riya ji and then we'll get started.
Yeah, Radhe Radhe Riya ji.
Radhe Radhe. कर्मण्येवाधिकारस्ते मा फलेषु कदाचन मा कर्मफलहेतुर्भू मा ते सङ्गोऽस्त्वकर्मणि.
Wonderful. Radhe Radhe. Thank you, Riya ji. I see Pramod ji joining in as well. So welcome, Pramod ji. I've been talking about you without realizing you're not here yet. But it was good meeting you the other day. So let's get started with our shloka. Karmani means in prescribed duties. Eva means only. Adhikara, right. Te, your. Ma, not. Phaleshu, in the fruits. Kadachana, at any time. Ma, never. Karma, phal, results of the activities. Hetu, cause. Bhu, be. Ma, not. Te, your. Sangha, attachment. Astu, must be. Akarmani, in action. Short translation for this goes like, you have a right to perform your prescribed duties, but you are not entitled to the fruits of your actions. Never consider yourself to be the cause of your activities, nor be attached to inaction. Lot of things are packed into this one shloka. Okay, we will get into that, but let's do a bit of a context setting here. Okay, before we get into the deeper aspects of the shloka. Now, how we are going to achieve, go about dissecting this shloka is like we sow anything, right? We till the soil, then we sow the seed, and then we nourish and nurture it. Now, what we are going to do in this session is why it is important. First of all, this shloka, right? It talks about do this. God is asking us to do something. Why is it important? In context of who we are. And then how do we plant the seed of this practice in our day-to-day life? And then what to do on a day-to-day basis. All the aspects we will cover, and like we are going to use discussion over the course of next 1 week. Some introspective activities, stories, analogies, and some videos will be available to you as well as you go along. So let's get started. Let's start with this. God, as we have seen, is infinite. Satchit Anand. God is infinite. He's called Satchidanand and we are called Anu Sat, Anu Chit, Anu Anand. So if we have to compare ourselves with the God, we are really tiny in front of God, right? We are tiny and God is infinite. So just give me a sec. I'm running out of resources for some reason. I just need to do one quick thing and then we can, it's just troubling me a little bit. So just bear with me for a second. Okay, sorry about that. I'm getting back. Okay, full screen now.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So God is infinite and we are tiny. And we are actually stuck in this cycle. As you see this guy, divine soul is caught up in the cycle of birth and death. So we are Anusat, Anuchit, Anuanand, and we are rotating in this cycle. Right? This guy is walking and he can continue walking for as long as he wants, but actually not making much of progress. Yes, progress in terms of getting out of the material world. Okay, and not truly in terms of building assets or getting closer to the goal. Still rotating in the circle of life and death. Now, as compared to God, we are really tiny. Right? God is called Vibhu, we are Anu. God is called Satchit Anand, we are Anu Sat, Anuchit Anand, Anu Anand. He's omnipresent, we are localized to a particular place, right? So obviously there is a lot of difference. Now what God is, now what it means for a soul. Now this mantra that God is giving in this particular shloka is actually going to lead us to success. And then the definition comes, what is the definition of true success for us actually, right? For us, being the part and parcel of God, what is the true success? And if you look up this definition on Google, you'll get thousands of definitions. What is success? And right, if you ask somebody else, it varies, very subjective, right? For different people, there are different yardsticks of success, but there has to be something like a universal acceptable definition, right? Now let's refer to our scriptures. What does it say? What is a true success? And if you think deeply about it, you will not be able to negate this definition, okay? Because it basically directly hits the point without beating about the bush. No objectivity, complete objectivity, no subjectivity around it at all. Nobody can belie this. Anybody who, whatever definition or yardstick of success they may have, they cannot refute or they cannot say that, no, by the way, I cannot agree to this definition. Okay, and what is that definition is what we see. This is how we see success, right? People, when they end up achieving something. Now, the true definition of success and the most beautiful one that Swamiji has actually provided us, you know, through his Vedic, is that blossoming of our soul in who we are and what we do. So to succeed in life is to become the best that we can become and do the best that we can do. And this question keeps coming up. What is this infinite potential that we talk about? When we are this much, when we are tiny, why do we keep on talking about infinite potential? And how do we end up achieving that true potential of ours? So let's understand we are divine soul. I've taken a step back from why to even get into this particular teaching, what Lord Krishna is telling us. Okay, he's going to enable something for us. And that enablement is towards our success. So we are saying, okay, we are a divine part of soul, the part and parcel of God, small fragment part of God. And then to become or realizing our true potential is the definition of success. In fact, if you look at any other creation on this earth, they actually end up realizing their true potential other than human beings. Right? If it is a seed of a lemon, it would manifest as a lemon, complete lemon. If it is a tree, it will achieve its height, what it has been scripted to achieve. There is a Japanese plant, you can constrict its root and do that, but artificially you can control its height. But actually, if you let it flourish, it will end up achieving what it was capable of doing. It's only humans who do not end up achieving what they are truly capable of achieving. Why and how this shloka is going to enable is where we are going to spend most of our time during this week. Okay. Now, if you are with me, that success, definition of success is whatever is our potential, right? We all are born with some kind of a potential. And if we end up achieving that, that is success, nothing more than that, right? If you had this much of potential and you end up achieving this much and say, no, that is good enough success for me, that is fine. That is your subjective definition, but objectively, you have still not achieved what you are truly capable of. Now, let's further move on. So, now as fragments of the supreme divine personality, we have immense potential inherent in our soul. That is what our scriptures say, immense potential, absolutely no limit to it. We are not any chota mota people, we are very special, okay? And that's something what our scriptures are telling us as well. Now, this is what we are, right? And this is what we are capable of, truly capable of. And this is what we think of ourselves and end up accomplishing in our lives. Okay, that much underselling we do because of so many reasons. We'll get into some of those as well. And it reminds me of this movie as well. It's one of my favorite dialogues, Neo of Matrix, right? So he was told, you know, you are capable of much more than you give yourself credit for. It was only when he woke up to the realization that he can do anything, he could actually do that. So this process of spirituality is actually truly waking up to our true nature. That's it. We are truly trying to wake up to our true nature so that we can realize the maximum potential that God has endowed us with. So there's a saying in English also that realizing the potential that we are truly capable. Now, giving that potential to each one of us is God's gift to us, and realizing that potential and gifting it back to God, you know, doing something back, is our gift back to God. Now, if you look at it, continuing with that, now it has the inherent splendor and immense potential. And even the Bible says in Matthew 5:48 that be perfect, therefore, as your heavenly Father is perfect. Same thing is coming from Bible as well. So scriptures actually, essentially, if you start getting deeper, the sayings and the teachings are essentially the same. It's only at the surface we have created the divisions and all that stuff, but when you start getting deeper into it, the essence is essentially the same for all, including the love for God, right, which is the ultimate goal of life. Now, the biggest wall that we need to climb is the one we build in our mind. Okay? Now, why do we think ourselves as a cat while actually we are a tiger? Is because that wall or the capping or the glass ceiling we impose on our mind. That is the first thing. Now let's look at it through a simple analogy, right? It's all about our sankalp, or how our ability to focus on something and actually believing we can do it. It is important. That belief is very important. And this is a beautiful analogy around it. Look at this guy who's walking on a tightrope, right? This guy, even for a second, if this thought crosses this person's mind that I'm going to fall, even for a flash of a second, this person is going to fall. Okay? That much of conviction and belief is needed actually to actually sail through this from point A to point B. And which basically corroborates the saying in English, which says that if you think you can or you think cannot, in both cases, you are right. Okay? So it's your mind which is actually telling you it is doable or it is not doable. It's not the true potential that you carry. Okay? That is why some people, they are able to achieve tremendous feats in life. They just have time for everything, right? Obama, I was hearing, he could even do, his gym. I would think, what kind of a person? He's the president of the superpower of this world, and he can find time for these kind of things. And people like me say, oh, I don't have time for this, and I don't have that. It's just about people can accomplish tremendous feats only when they have that focus and clarity that I can actually do it. Now let's move on. So this journey that we are talking about, oh yeah, so this is a interesting one. So this little girl, as you can see, has come here to pluck some flowers, right? And she ends up getting stuck in these thorns of these flowers, right? So our life story is a little bit about like that, where if you see, it is said, I love this, basically it says, Fool chunne aaye the, baage हयात में खरा जरा में दामन उल्फाकर रह गए. So basically, this is what we came here for, and this is where we got stuck. This is the story of our life. To translate it in English for the benefit of people who cannot understand this, we had come to pluck flowers from the garden of life, but in the ensuing hustle and bustle of human existence, we ended up entangled in thorns. This is the story of most of our lives, for most people. We don't even know the music that God had given us. Forget about playing it or doing something with it. And there's a reason for that. There's a reason for that. We'll go into that as well. So now this concept that we spoke about, that God is infinite and we are like this baby, as you see, right? Tiny in front of it. And what is this infinite stuff that we are talking about here? Now this transformation from tiny to infinite, how do we achieve that? There has to be some way for that. It's not that I'll wake up, pop in a pill and say, now I have become infinite. No, there is a process to everything. We have the potential to become godlike, right? Because we are part of him. And basically, so that God can give his true inheritance, hand it over to us, what we are actually worthy of acquiring. Now, how do we do that? On one hand, we are tiny. On the other hand, they say we have our mind is infinite, right? This question keeps up coming up. In fact, I got a couple of messages. I thought I'll tie it to this shloka and then start building on it as well. What does it truly mean? So let's get into it. Basically, a tiny spark, although a fragment of fire, it can consign an entire forest to flames. That much potential it has. Just a tiny. There was a Leo Tolstoy story also, if you have read in NCRT or CBSE, a spark neglected burns the house. A spark is good enough for that. It actually has that much of latent power. The entire forest can be consigned to flame. But then spark has to latch on to another spark, and then it has to build on it. So that is where let's refer to scriptures now. Bhakti Shatak, verse 51, it says, Brahma Vrih As Bada Jako Adi Na Ant Bada Brihan Hatwat As Auran Kare Anant. So what does it mean? Our scriptures say that the word Brahma has two meanings. Now this Bhakti Shatak is basically, it's like Gagar Me Sagar Piro Dena. Shri Maharaj Ji, he wrote just 100 verses, which actually has taken the entire distillation of scriptures and put it in those 100 verses. One verse, when Swamiji takes in his retreats, he can actually speak for 1 week. Okay, these are not ordinary verses, by the way. And it is said that he was speaking, he was writing these verses. He used to converse with the Vedic Rishas. All the Vedas would manifest and he would converse with them when he came up with these 100. So they are not ordinary verses, okay? But with my limited intellect, I can explain just a little bit of it. So what we need to understand for the sake of our discussion, let's understand that. The word Brahma has two meanings. The first is called Vrihatvat Brahma, the one who is the greatest. We have already seen that. God is infinite, he is the greatest. Right? And the second aspect of Brahma is, it's like, just think of it. If the father is great, kid is not, and there's no way for the father to make the kid great. Of what use that greatness is? Are you with me so far? You getting it? So if father is great, kid is not, which we have seen, we are tiny. That is our constitutional position, because we are the Jiva Shakti aspect of God. Right? We have spoken about this concept. There are 3 Shaktis of God, Tatastha Shakti. So we are limited in a lot of ways. But if our father is great and he does not have the ability to make us great, then what's the point of that greatness? Right? You continue to be great, we continue to be tiny. Now God actually says the Brahma definition is not only Vrihatvat Brahma, one who is the greatest, but Brihanatvat Brahma as well, which means the one who makes others great. So he has the ability to make others great as well. How is what we are going to get into. So these are the 2 aspects of Brahma. Not only he is great, but he has an ability to make others great as well. Now, let's look at the actions that we do. So if we talk about becoming great here, right, we looked at it transform to infinite. It's a little bit like Let's say somebody is going in a bicycle and he wants to have the horsepower of a car. Right? What can they do? Either they build an engine of that car, or they can tap into the car so that they can carry through with that momentum. And this shloka is actually going to give us the tools where we can start tapping into that powerhouse. Okay, this is it's a beautiful shloka actually. The God is actually giving us a very simple tool. Okay, let me make you great and tell you how you will become great like me. But I'll give you some tools so that you can start practicing it, and uncondition your conditioned mind from multiple lifetimes. So I'm just setting the context for this shloka. Why is it important actually for me to begin with? Because we can realize our true potential. And what is our true potential? To become godlike. That is our true potential. But unless we start imbibing that practice in our day-to-day life, that means we know it conceptually, but we are not able to make a progress around it. And that is why he's given us a silver bullet, at least in our day-to-day lives. You start putting it to practice, these concepts that God is going to talk about in this particular shloka. So let's set the context for the shloka. So there are actions. We do actions in this world. And when we do actions, we do it for a reason. Even a foolish person will do an action for a reason. Nobody does an action without any reason. Okay. Now, have you ever gone to an auto wala or a rickshaw wala and say, Bhaiya, will you go to MG Road? And he will say, yeah, I will go to MG Road. And you say, then go. No, you will sit on it and then go along with him, right? So there is a reason for anything and everything that we do. Now, these actions are actually categorized into two categories. Now, think about it. Now, we are going to start building on it. At any point, if you have any doubts, stop me. But we are going to start from a fundamentals of how we perform actions. Now, type 1 actions are actions which are performed by our mind and intellect. Intellect is involved. Okay. I hope you're with me so far. And the second kind of actions are mind and intellect is there for sure. You need your mind, your thinking power, and your discriminating power as well, whether it is okay to do and this is the way I need to be doing it, activating that knowledge. So mind and intellect will come in this as well. But then there is another aspect of it, and that is attachment. Okay, there are two categories of actions. One, mind and intellect alone, and second one is mind and intellect plus attachment. Okay, there is no third category of action, by the way. These are the two categories of action. Now, the mind and intellect that we talk about, you see something here? It is extremely malleable. Now, malleable is a chemistry term, by the way. What it means is, basically it means is if there's a metal, you can hammer it, press it, mold it, twist it, whatever you want to do, but you will not be able to basically break it, or it will not crack. That is the property of that metal. So that means this faculty that God has given us, the mind and intellect, it's extremely malleable. You can train it, you can learn things, you can unlearn things, it can be trained infinitely. And that is where the law of infinite potential comes. I hope that puts the concept in perspective now, right? It can be trained infinitely. We'll not get into the specifics of subconscious mind, conscious mind. A little bit we will do that, not too much in detail. But the point here to be understood is we do actions with our intellect and mind, and then intellect and mind plus attachment. However, the intellect and mind aspect of it is infinitely trainable. Okay. And let's look at it how we train ourselves in anything in life. Okay, this is a beautiful graph. Not graph, the concept that Swamiji explained, I tried to put it in a graph, and that explains how we go about acquiring anything new. Whenever we are motivated, or we understand something is important, or we have to acquire a skill, or we have to train our mind, or we have to condition our mind, or we have to uncondition, unlearn and relearn something. There are 4 phases it goes through. Okay, so here's a quadrant. So on x-axis, we have conscious, subconscious, and on the y-axis, we have competence and incompetence of our mind. So the first quadrant is subconscious incompetence. Okay, that is the first level where we are incompetent and we don't even know we are incompetent. Okay, that is the first quadrant, which is basically called water waste. So if you don't have a spiritual spark, if you have not understood the basics of spirituality or started making some efforts toward it, it's basically subconscious incompetence where we are saying we know it all, right? We know it all and that's it. So there are just too many blind spots in our life, which is called subconscious incompetence. And at this level, you are at the peak of pride and peak of ignorance, basically. Now, the beauty of it is when you start putting some effort around it systematically or with the grace of God and Guru, it happens. Then the next stage that comes is conscious incompetence. Now you started understanding, hey, by the way, there's so many problems with me. Okay, my mind thought like that. Why did I think like that? Scriptures tell us to do this, but my mind tells me just the opposite. Now how your spark, that thing has started coming in. Now you're becoming consciously incompetent, right? It's just like driving. You have no clue how to drive. Now you're consciously incompetent. You know, when I press my brake and clutch, sometimes I do it all together and I should not do this and that. And now at least that radar has opened up, that you've started understanding there are problems I need to fix, right? Previously you are diseased, but you are not even aware you are diseased. Now at least you have started acknowledging that, yes, I've got a problem. I need to see a doctor or I need to do something about it, which is aha moment of life. Okay, this is the stepping stone to spirituality, where now you start reading yourself like a book and you say it's a mess. And it's a good thing, okay? It's not something to get disheartened about. It's a good thing because that is the first stepping stone towards learning something. The third stage is that comes in our life is conscious competence. Now you know it. When I press my clutch, I have to coordinate that movement and you are able to focus and do it because you have started practicing it. So now you are consciously competent. You say, no, this thought came to my mind. I don't have to think that. Or have started getting into the trap of worrying again. Or this anger is coming before it becomes a full-fledged fire. I need to control it. Or I'm not going to eat this thing because of intoxication stuff, because it is going to push back my spiritual journey by a month or a few years. Or I need to avoid kusang because if it happens, my mind will start playing tricks with me because now you are acquiring conscious competence. You start aligning with the principles and then you start making a conscious effort towards it very mindfully, very awarely, with awareness. I need to do this. I don't need to do this. This is how I need to spend time. And there's a conscious effort around it. So this is the third stage. And then the fourth stage, the expert stage, is called subconscious competence. Now you are drinking a Coke, listening to a music, talking to your relative, mom, girlfriend, whoever it is, and driving the car as well, right? Now you've reached that competence level. So where things are already recorded in your subconscious and you can move on to acquire the next best thing. That is why I say that willpower is a muscle which is limited, of course. So when we invest our willpower to form good habits, then it automatically leads us from conscious competence to our subconscious competence, which is the most high level. So invest your willpower to make habits and then you don't need a willpower anymore. It has become a habit. And then start building on your why power for the next thing, and then there are no levels when you start getting better at anything at all. So these are the 4 stages in acquiring any new skill which we think is worthy of our acquisition in our life. And again, tying it back to the shloka, in this one, Lord Krishna is telling us, let's get out of that conscious incompetence. The way you work is you've gotten it all wrong. Okay, so this one, we are going to start with the quadrant 1 and hopefully get into the quadrant 3 by the end of this session. And quadrant 2, when we are having our discussions, that we understand this happens, why it happens, and how do we. So that is the whole idea until we get into quadrant 4, which will anyway take a lot of practice and a mindset, right? And some habits which would help us get to that. But this one is hitting the quadrant one. Let's first understand where we are all getting it wrong, because we are so habituated and conditioned to doing it this way, right? And there are tons of questions that will come, and that is where this discussion is going to be a pretty enriching one. We are going to beat it to death, basically, this concept, until we really get it, okay, for all of our benefits, for sure, because it's a very important concept. Tomorrow we'll do a little bit of an arithmetic of life as well, and the concept that we have to do an action, we have to do karma. Karm Yog is something that not even for a second we are against any karma, right? So if we integrate it in our life, it's one of those things, right? You have to do your sadhana, you have to do devotion, you have to inculcate love for God. It will become a facilitator or a stepping stone for that as well, right? Like Swami Vivekananda said, no work is secular, everything can be devotional. And that is what we will hope to achieve through this session. Yes, Shyamji, you had a question for me. Hope it's an easy question at this point, and please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe Shyamji.
Radhe Radhe bhai, Radhe Radhe, Sandhya. Idin bhai, I am speaking from Delhi, physically. Mentally, I am in Delhi, RKT.
Thank you for introducing yourself, Shyamji. I wasn't aware of that.
Okay. My question, the last slide, you said action has two parts. One, we do with mindless intellect, and second is attachment. But do not we do all the actions with attachment?
No, we don't.
The way we should do, or that's the way we do normally?
No.
Whatever I do, as I will say my example, whatever I do with attachment. Whether I'm anything I do, work, job, for myself, for my family, for my near ones, whatever I do, it's attachment. I never do any job without attachment.
Okay.
So how does shall we do attachment?
Yeah, two things. So yeah, people who are very passionate, people who are emotional, yes, I can imagine whatever you do, you attach your heart to it and stuff like that. That can happen as well. So basically that means you have a higher pit to climb now. Okay, so let's get into that as well. But let me give you some examples. When you say there are jobs which we do with mind and intellect for attachment. Let's say there's a teacher in school, right? There's a teacher in school, she's teaching kids. Now, every time a kid fails, you think she's going to cry her heart out like she would cry when her own kid fails?
She won't.
So then they are doing their duty, one after another after a nurse. Let's take an example of a nurse in a hospital. She just knows what is the right thing to do for this baby. Now, if baby is crying, she knows that I don't have to give it milk. But if the mother is there, she cannot bear it. Oh my God, my little baby is crying. Let me give it milk, even though that might hurt the stomach of the kid at that point. Why? Because the mother has an attachment. Nurse is doing it more like a duty.
Attachment, suppose as a matter of, we take a case of nurse or teacher, but somewhere down the heart, they would feel that if I would have something extra, maybe he would have passed, or she would have felt better.
Happens.
So,
it can happen.
Attachment, no.
Over time,
maybe.
Yeah, so maybe that little bit of attachment might be there as well, but they are able to, for most part, they are able to detach themselves from that, right? Like a doctor, one of my friends, he's in FMC. He said, I still vividly remember the first person who died in my hand. Okay, as a doctor or as a soldier, when you kill somebody as a matter of duty, or let's say you're trying to save somebody and they lose their life in your hands, that has a lasting impression, right? Because of our state. But you think that would happen? I asked him after that. I said, what happened now? Do you feel the same? He said, no. Now for me, it's just a duty. I said, yeah, that's exactly the concept I'm talking. I could map it to Bhagavad Gita. Now it's just a duty for him, because every time if you think, he cannot operate effectively, right? If doctors, every time he's thinking about the failure, you think a surgeon can perform those complicated surgeries where even a little movement here and there can be a matter of life and death for somebody? His hands will be shaking. What if I fail? What if I do this, and what will happen to his family? Oh, his wife was looking at me with those eyes, as if I'm God. If he's going to think about all these things, he cannot perform the job at hand. So they get over that beyond a point, not because they've read Bhagavad Gita, because their profession demands it. If they've read Bhagavad Gita, even better.
So through you mean to say that through Bhagavad Gita, through you are saying that whatever we do, we should not attach to it. Just do it and leave it to God. Whatever happens, happens for good. That I will put in my effort to do it good, but I should leave it to God. That's what we should all aim for.
We will get into that concept. Yes, yes. I've not even started with the shlokas yet. So we'll look at the 4 tenets of it and we'll really get deep into it. But yes,
And
essentially that is what Lord Krishna is telling you in this particular thing. Okay, don't be attached to result. Now those questions will come. How will I motivate myself if I'm not attached to it, right? If I won't think about the results, then how will I perform better about it, right? And then if I put in my hard work, why won't I then celebrate it, right? Our corporates tell us celebrate small victories, that will take you to the, so all these concepts are there. We'll get into all that. Yes,
and
but
when we say competence, the fourth quadrant, normally we do certain things which is in the fourth quadrant. Like we said, singing, listening to music, talking on the phone, driving a car. We do most of the things I guess in the fourth quadrant. Just besides God, we do everything that quadrant is. Our life is like in a mode, is an auto mode. The mornings we get up, we know what to do. We don't even think twice.
we are very much capable. Yes, very true. We are very much capable of doing that. So let's get this going. I know more questions will come up. We are very much capable of doing that. I'm telling you, this whole game of life, which makes us repeat, is just about those 2 or 3 people only.
It's all about mind. It's all the mind game.
Yeah, those 2 or 3 people is all it takes us for keep on repeating, and those 3 people will keep changing in every life. We don't need tons and tons of people around us or tons and tons of desires. Just few. That's it. One person is good enough for us to find in life to make us repeat. And even if you don't have a purse, one pet is enough.
Yeah, true that. Because initially in the early years we have plenty of friends. As we keep growing, the friends keep phasing out. And
Yes.
we only have few friends who just we stay with them. I guess that's life. I guess we just need few things to keep us around.
We find our
That's
secret in every life, okay? And that is why we are here. That is what Lord Krishna is telling us. Help me, help you. Okay, so let's understand what he's telling us basically in this one. Let's continue. So this is an extremely popular verse, like I said, and even the school children in India, they're familiar with it. And proper spirit of work, science of work, so to say, and topic of Karm Yog. So it is talking about, these are the concepts we are going to really drill into. Okay, it actually talks about 4 things. Do your duty, do not concern yourself with the results. That's the first one. Second one is, the fruits of your actions are not for your enjoyment. Okay, very hard one to take. Third one is, even while working, give up the pride of doership. And the fourth one is, do not be attached to inaction. Okay, these are the 4 tenets or the 4 principles that we are going to go really deep into as part of our discussion this week, and we'll go into a lot of theory around it as well. So with that, any questions on this, what we have spoken so far? And then I will pose a very simple question for today, just to stimulate a bit of a discussion, thought process going around it, before we get into some deeper philosophy and theory around it, as coming from Bhagavad Gita and our scriptures. Like if you speak to people, everybody is a self-proclaimed Karm Yogi. Everybody thinks I'm a Karm Yogi. Okay, what do you do this Radhe Govind and Kirtans and all? Do your work. Okay, I'm a Karm Yogi, and they will very proudly declare themselves to be a Karm Yogi. And if you ask every second person whether they have read Gita or understood Gita or not, they will say I'm a Karm Yogi. Okay, this is a concept I have lived with basically as part of growing up, and I used to think everybody is a Karm Yogi, then they have already cracked it. But when you start getting into deeper, let's look at this definition as well. So you do your work. You are very honest at your work. Okay, you don't have to believe in God and to be honest, right? There is a value system we all of us have, and we do whatever we do very nicely, diligently, putting the required rigor and focus around it. Whether we are at work, with friends, relative, office, wherever. Are we doing Karm Yog is the question I'm posing. I'm not going to get into the answer part of it, but just get the discussion going and hear from participants, or for that matter, anything that we have discussed today as part of setting the context for this discussion, right? Infinite potential and the 4 stages, because this shloka is going to actually hit upon quadrant 1, where we are not even aware we are incompetent in the science of work. Okay, and the hope is that at least we start becoming conscious about it and then start doing something about it as well until we perfect it. All right. So with that,
Yeah, first of all, there are some comments and questions in the chat, so I'll just read them.
Sure.
So Anusha ji says, Radhe Radhe, it feels like there is a difference between attachment and level of interest in performing action. And this is in response to what Shamji was asking.
Level of interest, yeah, possibly. Yeah, that's true. Is it I think we really have to think deeply about this concept to see if it is attachment, interest. I mean, these are all gray areas, right? We only can articulate it or define it in black and white. It's very difficult because choice of words can sometimes be limiting in labeling what we are truly feeling about it. But yeah, we'll get into this concept and pick up some situations as well that you would like to discuss. All right, any announcements, Sandhya, before we get into a bit of a discussion around this?
Yeah, announcements are there, but first I'll maybe read these two questions and then I'll go to the announcement. So Shri Ramya ji's questions. First, what is the difference between purpose and attachment? And second one is, I often find myself swinging between quadrants 1, 2, 3. Why do we fall back even after gaining progress consciously? Very nice question.
Yeah, so purpose and attachment. So purpose and goal is needed in life. Without a goal, nothing is achievable in life, whether materially or spiritually. Right? If somebody plays, I mean, I used to play soccer. I'm sure you would have played, a lot of you would have played as well. And if you were to play that game without a goal, it will not be fun, right? By the way, it reminds me of a joke that this guy goes to see the soccer match and they are saying goal, 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 like they say. He said it's already goal. How much more goal you need, right? Goal means round, by the way. So goal is very important in whatever we do in life because it sets a focus and it gives us certain milestones to us, right? And it helps us measure our progress against that goal as well. So goal and purpose is needed. But now, if somebody has a goal in life, let's say I'm going to bring in some videos tomorrow. Somebody has a goal. Let's say I want to achieve something in life. Let's say a material goal you have. I want to be a gold medalist or I want to break a world record in a particular thing, right? When that person has a goal, he has a way to measure his progress. Is that person actually finding that journey arduous because he's so motivated by the goal, or is it having a wear and tear on his mind just because he has that goal? That is a question to be asked. Is it a journey that person thinks is worth pursuing, or is it just having a wear and tear on his mind that, oh my goodness, I'm so far from this goal. When will the Olympics come? How will I break this record? What if I don't break this record? What if somebody else does it? My life will become a waste. So the question to be asked is, having a goal does not give us any kind of a stress. It actually gives us a purpose. Okay, stress is our own doing, where those kind of lower energy that we fall into and because of our conditioning actually inhibits our fast growth towards it. And I'll give you enough examples around it and some videos around it as well. Goal is needed, very much needed, but goal should not bring in, if doing hard work would bring in stress, then laborers and people who work do all the hard work, they should be the most stressed out people in life, but they are not. Stress is brought in about our mind, which is good news. Is the bad news is it is brought in by our own doing, our mind and intellect. The good news is it's extremely malleable, teachable, and that is what God Krishna is trying to do. That words, yeah, that blacksmithing of our mind. That hey, apply these tools and you will fix this thing, which is very much teachable. Don't think it is rigid. Very much teachable. So goal and purpose is very much needed, and we'll talk into about that as well. We need a growth mindset around that for sure.
Yeah, thank you. And I think the announcements, mainly it is the family camp, which is in from June 24th to 30th. So whoever hasn't registered, please do so and make use of this opportunity. I mean, Swamiji is going to be there. He has been here for our previous weekend and it was amazing. So I think whoever hasn't met Swamiji or has met earlier would know. So please come and make use of the best opportunity.
Yeah, the joy is just so palpable on Sandhya's face, you can imagine, right? Just one meeting with Swamiji can make it happen. So do check it out. Come over for the family retreat. Pramod ji is having a white, nice smile as well. It's a great opportunity. Just being in his presence is an amazing opportunity. And if you get a time to spend about a week with him, it's amazing. Mentally very therapeutic for sure. Yes, so yeah, we had a wonderful CIC inauguration. It was like 3 days of festivities. We had a great time, walk, and pretty amazing events. So Sandhya was one of our cheerleaders, right? In full enthusiasm.
It was a blissful experience.
Yes, of course.
Yeah, and Swamiji's US tour, it involves a lot of I think activities all across US. So I have posted the link for upcoming events, and you can find the details about that.
Sure.
So yeah, that's it. These are the announcements from my end, and then.
And preparing for the event was so blissful. Padmaji was there, and we all had a pretty good time, even though, like I said, doing hard work does not give you stress, right? Even if you're staying till 1 a.m. in the morning, it gives you a sense of when you have a good purpose, goal, sense of bliss, not stress. So it is not related to work, it's our own doing because of our conditioning. Okay, all right. We have some questions or anything?
Yeah, Padmaji, Radhe Radhe.
Attendance tracker, please fill it up as well. If you have any questions, please fill it up there. I brought in that infinite potential stuff today because I was asked that question. And similarly, if anything related to Karm Yog you have, please put in, because we'll try to tackle those questions during the sessions. It's important we get our doubts clarified because it's a very important concept. Yes,
Sandhya, can I go?
Yeah.
Radhe Radhe.
Radhe
Radhe. And I must just share like few thoughts and where I am with this Karma Yoga, right? Just the question itself, trying to understand what Karma Yoga really puts you in an alignment, in the right path to notice your actions, notice your thoughts, and notice how you're responding to a certain situation. And if I can draw back to Shamji's question, I don't even think I have even an understanding of 0.001% of what Karma Yogi is. But I asked the same question, and this is the only way that I know whether I'm actually even trying to be Karma Yogi is, am I doing this out of my duty or am I doing this out of my desire? So that was my way to continuously ask myself, is it duty or is it desire? Is it duty or is it desire? So if my body and mind and soul says this is something which is coming out of desire, I'll wait until I know what is the right thing to do, until my body and my mind or soul, whatever you want to call it, the inner voice or consciousness tells me this is the right action. And I wait in that space. I don't push myself by the situation. I don't push myself by what people want out of me. I don't push myself by the pressure of anything, because I truly believe, I'm not a Bhagavad Gita expert, but I truly believe that when you do something out of your own tendencies that God has given you, the beautiful results will come that will become permanent within yourself. So you have to wait in that space until your inner consciousness gives you that signal that might be coming from God, that might be coming from Guru, that might be something that you watch and that tells you. I wait for that inner voice to make me and do an action, not from the mind, the monkey mind, but when my inner voice says, go do it, I would do it, and I wait. Why? Because for me, something coming from inside is much more valuable than doing something out of somebody else telling me or the situation forcing me to do, because I rather work on my tendencies and make a mistake and learn from that mistakes rather than doing a mistake than the situation or the person says. Again, it's me. So the other way to look at this is it an attachment or is it a commitment? I can personally speak for these two words, contemplate on these two words. Is it an attachment or is it a commitment to that purpose? I've been teaching undergrads and I'm teaching high school. Why am I saying I have taught undergrads and high school? Is it's a completely different environment. The mindset of these kids are very different. So I have to ask myself, am I committing to what my role is as a teacher every single year, which is to put my best effort each single day? But I'm aware in the back of the mind, but that there will be some students who will fail in spite of your best efforts. Some students will fail. Some students will decide based on their tendency that they don't want to put any effort. So for me, coming out, working out of my tendencies, I look at this as not a failure, but I've given my 100% capacity. That was one thing. And the other thing is, think about this. The situations will always be temporary. What will be permanent? Your work on your tendencies. Whatever the tendency is, if you haven't gotten better this week or gotten better next week, that becomes your new tendency that you can work on. And you know that you're working towards that Karma Yogi part of whatever it is. If you have grown from inside, and if you have made the situation grow, or the person grow, or the students grow in a certain way, and that is my measure. Of course, everybody will have their own yardstick.
Okay, interesting point, Padmaji. So let me play a devil's advocate and ask you a cross question here. Sense of whether it is coming out of a sense of duty or a sense of desire. Now, who defines that duty? Who defines the duty for whom? Let's have a discussion on that. Will your gut tell you the duty, which duty is higher or which is lower, or what are you going to rely on to make that decision?
I mean, this is again speaking for me. Like, I don't see like one duty as higher than another. I just see that whatever the duty that I have to do, let's say I'm a mother, let's say I'm a teacher, let's say I'm a sister, right? We play all this role, and this is how I simplify myself. I play when I with my kid, I have a duty towards that child that I have, not as a teacher but as a mother. So what can I bring to that situation, or the duty that is presented in front of me as a mother? How can I bring a holistic approach to this? And whatever my actions are, am I improving myself through what I'm doing, or am I improving the child spiritually in the kind of duty or the understanding that I have as a mother? And as a teacher, I have a duty as being as a teacher. Whatever actions that I do, am I bringing a closure spiritually, or am I spiritually elevated being as a teacher? Am I spiritually, are my kids a little bit elevated, being a teacher? So I just take pieces. I don't think I don't have that vision to work as a holistic. Maybe I have to get there in next lifetime, but just in the position of the motherhood, what is that my duty? What is my spiritual duty? As a teacher, what is my spiritual duty? As a sister, what is my spiritual duty? So I just break it down for me. I'm not there yet, I guess. Like, I don't know how to do the
holistic. I was just trying to understand. No, that makes sense what you're trying to do. So yeah, both ways of learnings are there as well. As scriptures tell us, one is we learn through our own intuition, our own guidance, that is there, right? It's like touching everything and experiencing everything, and then your intuition will guide you. So that is one way of learning. Other is you take the top-down knowledge directly from scripture, right? Duty itself is simplified by our scriptures. Is it your material duty, or is it your spiritual duty? Are you doing it for your body, thinking yourself as a body, or are you doing it because you think yourself as a soul, right? So scriptures give us very precise nuggets around it to simplify the clutter in our head. But the other way is, like you say, okay, you don't have to go by that knowledge, you have to go by your own gut. Then that is also a way of learning, but it's a arduous and a longer path. The scriptures tell us you tap into something which is anyway descending. They are telling you the perfect source of knowledge, and it will simplify your thought process as well. But then, yes, we can still rely on our gut and our own intuition around any situation, and we want to learn it that way. That is our choice. But then that path becomes a little tricky and a long-winded route, because now you're relying on your learning. And in one life, even if we take one or two learnings, there are so many things to do. How many learnings and how many lifetimes we can invest on this, because time is of essence here, right? Human life itself is so precious that whether we'll get it next time or not is not. So scriptures tell us the smarter, fastest, surest way is to tap into the perfect knowledge and start aligning to that, because our own intuition is conditioned as well. Something will tell us this is probably better in this situation. We will never come to know whether it was the perfect knowledge at that given in time or not. And then that learning process can actually become a stretched process, especially if it's not aligning to that principle. This shloka is going to tackle how do we attach to divine, not to the worldly duty aspect of it. How do we tap into divine? It's Krishna is saying, help me help you, because otherwise this game that you are playing, you will continue to play this game forever, no matter how hard you try. So let me give you formula so that you start decluttering your mind and purifying it, so that you start aligning to spiritual principles for your own good. So that is essentially what it is. It is nothing to do with the material aspect of it. And Success in material life, seeing things and duties or material duties in perspective, will be a natural consequence of it. It's not like it's at the cost of your material duties. That will anyway come. It has to flow. That is the beauty of divine principles. It's not like your other things will be rejected and you'll become a failure in life. You'll get better holistically for sure. Let's hear. I can see a couple of other hands. Take this discussion forward. Little bit of time. Spend maybe another 5 minutes because I know Sandhya has to study as well. So
Anusha ji has added a point in addition to this. So if we are experiencing stress and anxiety while working, then it is because of attachment. If we work with the aim of giving our best that is directed towards our goal and also leave the results to God, it may qualify to be Karm Yog.
True, very true. I want to tackle one question I got from Smitaji. Bhakti is also a karma. Without attachment to God, it cannot be performed. Yes, it is called dovetailing. When we talk about these concepts, it is all material concepts. When we say desire is bad, we are not saying desire for bad is God is bad. When we say anger is bad, we are not saying getting angry at yourself because you're not able to make progress towards loving God is bad. So we have to, every concept that is spoken about here is material concept. When you start dovetailing it towards God, it becomes good. The same thing which is materially binding for us can actually become uplifting for us when we start dovetailing it towards God. Bhakti, attachment to God, if we can have, nothing like it. You are already a done deal. It's like a privilege if you start forming an attachment to God. Suryadas, all the saints had a deep attachment to God. Yes, God is saying if you want to love somebody or attach, do that, and then you see the results around it as well. Because he's a true sambandhi. And what we think are sambandhis are our people around us, right? Which is a kind of a fallacy of this material world. Okay, let's continue. Is there anything you wanted to read out, or I can see a couple of hands? I would like
There
to.
is at least two more things which I think I can read out quickly. So Samji has commented on the infinite potential part. He's saying that thank you for clarifying about infinite potential that the soul has, and if he understands it rightly, soul has infinite potential to become perfect that God has in him. However, will we have infinite attributes also like God?
You
When
will
we become
become
God-like?
God-like. You will
Yeah,
become God-like.
And there's one more question. It is said willpower has a limit. Then what is the use of infinite potential when willpower has a limit?
Infinite potential, willpower has a limit. Willpower has a limit to form habits so that we can progress towards achieving our infinite potential. Both, I don't see that there's not a cause and effect. So willpower has a limit, infinite potential. So willpower is a means to an end. Infinite potential is an end. Willpower is something you exert along the way to form good habits, good mindsets, so that you can reach the potential that you have. Okay.
Yeah. And I think Sri Ramya ji had asked that question, right? That she finds herself swinging between quadrants 1, 2, 3. And why do we fall back even after gaining progress consciously?
Yeah, that's because Sri Ramyaji, that if that is the bad news, the good news is we all do that. Okay, we are falling in those quadrants only, but it happens because in some things it won't happen. See, when you have really put your mind to something like driving, for example, then it becomes subconscious. But when it comes to setting goals, spiritual goals, we have a wishy-washy thing. Chalta hai. Right? If you have a goal, like when you have a material goal to pass an exam or to do well in exam, how much effort you put, how much stress do you get, right? I have to do this, I have to do that. But in this case, if somebody tells you the goal of life is to love God and achieve God, then are we stressed about it? Not at all. Because, okay, we'll see, we have times, all that stuff. So our resolve is not that much of pakka. Doesn't mean it becomes stressful, but then like if Swamiji, he can give up job and everything just because his intellect said this is the goal of life and I want to do the best possible thing, to meet that goal. That means he had a firm resolve. We did that, right? We are Katur Bhavati, that when we have a intense desire, the resolve will be, and your effort would be commensurate with that. But it's all because we have a lukewarm kind of a thing, right? Okay, maybe not, maybe hua to hua, nahi hua to nahi hua, chalta hai attitude. That is why we keep falling in those quadrants. Otherwise, we will put an effort and make it happen. Right? Virat Kohli was asked that, why do you exert so much, go through those boring routines time after time after time in nets and eat chana and stuff like that. He said, my shelf life as a sportsman is very limited. and I want to become the best that I possibly can be. That much resolve he has. So he's not in those quadrant, because his resolve is pakka. So we have to check our resolve around it. Are we really serious about it? Do we really take it, the way it has been told, or we think, okay, maybe not? So it's really a reflection on ourselves and anything else. Okay.
Okay. Hasmita, Radhe Radhe.
Hasmita, tectonic shifts. Okay, anything but tectonic shifts today.
Yeah, Radhe Radhe Sandhiji, Radhe Radhe Nitinji. So for the question you've asked about, are you a Karma Yog if you do your work honestly and diligently? If you do your work honestly and diligently when you're at home and when you're at work, it means you have integrity. You're doing it with, like you're not doing something you're not, who you're not. You're being yourself in different places. And Karma Yoga is where you do something with a devotion to God or to some specific thing and don't expect anything from it. But even if you have integrity, you can still expect things back. So just because you have integrity doesn't mean you're a full Karma Yoga. Sure, it's an aspect of being a Karma Yoga, which means being truthful and honest, but it's not fully being Karma Yogi. Because a Karma Yogi is a person who does things with the name of God. Like, for example, they have this puja or something to do, and they're hosting it like as a big festival, and they invited a lot of people. So you just do it because you want to give your love and devotion to God, and you don't expect anything in return. Like, oh, this person didn't do this person wasn't really interested. You don't expect them to do it. You just want to show your love, and you invite other people to do it with you. So, and if you're being honest to yourself at home and at work or at some friend's place, you're I don't know how to explain it. Like, you have the capacity of being honest, but you don't have the capacity of not expecting things back.
True, very true. I think I got the gist of what you're trying to say. Yes, honest and all these are noble virtues, but just because you're having it, it will still not work on your mind. You're still treating it with the mind, which is probably better mind than others, more cleaner mind than others, but it is still not tapping into the divine. So you will still have expectations, you would still have attachment to the results, and you will still continue to stress about things if they don't go your way. So it is not a Karm Yoga. I think you brought in good point, and that really sets the stage for our coming up discussion as well. Good observation, Hasmita. I'm glad you're getting those concepts. So beautiful. Thank you so much for that.
Yeah, very nice, Hasmita. There is one clarification that Lakshmi ji has asked. So Karma Yoga is equal to Bhakti plus duty without attachment. Is it correct?
Yeah, Bhakti is like a superset of everything. It covers everything. Karm Yog is, see, you have to mix devotion and love for God in no matter what you do, no matter how much jap, tap, mental gymnastics, whatever you do. If you don't mix Bhakti, it is purely zeros without that one, like Swamiji says. Bhakti is the secret sauce for everything. Okay, but Karm Yoga is going to be a stepping stone for that, because now you're doing it for a higher purpose. It's not just about becoming effective around thinking situations and how to navigate. It's much deeper than that. Okay, it's a very deep principle, the Karm Yoga aspect of it. If you don't get it, understand it, we will continue doing that, what our mind is going to tell us. Okay, and that is one of the reasons we keep repeating here. So let's spend a good amount of time to understand the depth of this one. But Bhakti, like you, I'm glad you brought that point, is the one preceding all the zeros that we are trying to put in. If you mix that part, it's plain zeros, adding zeros. That point. You can see Pragya. I know quite a few hands raised, but Sandhya, I will excuse you. I know I'm not going to take long time today, maybe a couple of participants and then real quick.
Yeah. Radhe Radhe Pragya ji.
Radhe Radhe, Nitin, Sandhya, and everyone. I joined late, so I hope the topic that is going on is Man Hari Mein Tan Jagat Mein.
We'll get to it. Yeah. We just did tilling the ground today. We are going to spend a good amount of week including Bhakti Shatak references around it. So today we were setting the context as to why we need that. And then we get into the deeper aspects of Karm Yoga.
So, yeah, all quoting from Swamiji's lecture, Maharaj's lecture. As you were saying, no matter how good you are, still everything is in the material realm only.
Yep.
And if we go from the law of infinite potential, from Swamiji's first 7 divine laws to awaken your best self, so we tap into that infinite only when we transcend the realm of Maya, or the divine soul that is within all of us. And that we tap into that divine soul when we connect to the Supreme Soul or God. Then only we tap into that infinite.
Yep.
And when we are doing everything, we really have to train our mind, because bacha ho aur attachment nahi ho, that I think there lies the umbilical attachment, the biggest attachment we have. But with all this knowledge, we take a step back and we can treat them as God sent, and maybe we are the facilitator, and things like that. So that comes to all other activities. As Swamiji, I remember listening to his lecture, when all the art forms in India have been delegated to God as a samarpan to God, the beauty and the heights of composition is far excellent. See the dance forms, see the music, see the painting, see the sculptures, everything. The minute we tap into that I am carving a statue of Krishna or Buddha or anyone, it is like some divine intervention comes, and the sculpture becomes just a medium, an instrument or a tool. So I think being in the material realm, or एक माइक जीत को सबसे ज़्यादा जो trouble करता है, that is the emotions, unnecessary attachment. The minute we, like, if your friend comes and shares something that has happened in her house, it is so easy for us to get objective and advise her. But if the same thing happens within our house, we get embroiled in emotions and attachments. So yeah, this is what I've learned in all these years with Swamiji's lectures and Maharaj's lecture. एक objectivity, to cultivate an objectivity which comes only with a degree of attachment. साक्षी भाव से जब हम किसी चीज को देखते हैं, we have more of clarity. Like we have so many examples, like a surgeon operating on a patient and choosing not to operate on his son, simply because of attachment, कि कुछ दाएं बाएं नहीं हो जाए, हाथ नहीं जाए, because he's scared of his emotion, of his attachment. And for any other doctor, it's like any other patient, any operation, he gives respect. So I think this is a brain training, which out of devotion, love for God, and objectivity. Thank you.
Thank you. Beautiful. Some problem. Okay. Yeah, beautiful point, Pragya. Your voice was breaking, but I think I got the gist of it, that only when we tap to divine, we start having unbelievable results. Otherwise, we are simply trying to strive for maybe a finite potential that we have, given the abilities God has given us, right? But to tap into infinite, we have to align to the principles that our scriptures are telling. We cannot tap into infinite through our self-effort alone. Very clearly, scriptures are telling us around that. It's just not possible, because our intellect is material, our mind is material, and God has a rule. He's going to divulge the secrets either through scriptures or through a saint. It's not something that can be imported through our own intellectual gymnastics by reading anything and by Swadhyaya alone. So that is a principle. 4.34 talks about that as well, where Lord Krishna himself is telling Arjun that Tad Vidhi Pranipaten Pariprashnena Sevaya. So it either comes to Guru or God has to be your Guru. So that's the only way to land to those principles, because these are divine and we are capped in a lot of ways with that regards. All right, if you have a question, I think you can put it in the attendance tracker. I know we are over time, and always I promise to every co-host that we'll wrap it up, but I'm unable to. So sorry about that. I see Padmaji, Hetalji, and maybe a few other hands. So please put it down or do that. I know I have to honor our co-host time as well. So let's wrap up this session. Yes.
I was just saying, I'm sorry, Hetalji, Ajitji, Padmaji, we couldn't take up your questions, but please put them up in the feedback tracker, and Nitinji will get back.
Yes, if you have a question, please put it in feedback tracker. We'll do that. So let's do our closing phrase, and tomorrow we will continue on this discussion. We'll look at it a little empirically as to why this concept is important and touch upon the first aspect that Lord Krishna is talking about. We have 4 concepts which we have to go really deep into. Let's do our closing phrase for the day then.
Do we have any volunteers or?
Yes. Padmaji, you want to go, or Shyamji?
Shyamji.
Let's do that.
Okay.
Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah, Sarve Santu Niramaya, Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu, Ma Kaschit Dukh Bhag Bhavet. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe.
Radhe.
And thanks for your enthusiastic participation. Look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Have a wonderful day and a great rest of your evening.
Yeah, thank you. Radhe Radhe. Good day.
Radhe Radhe.
Have a good day.